How you doing, everyone, and welcome to the Electric B2B show. I have today with me a new guest slash co-host, Zoli Erkel. What's up, Zoli?
Hey everybody, how's everyone doing? Fine,
Hey.
that's great.
Yeah, listen, guys, Zoli is the newest addition to the team at Clear. So if you're a client of ours, you may already have met him. Or if not, you're going to meet him soon. Zoli's going to be helping out with marketing projects for clients, and he's an awesome dude with lots of background in marketing and in sales and with startups and with tech companies. So he's a really precious addition to the team. And we're going to be talking about what his favorite movie is. Seriously. That's the
Okay.
first question, Zoli. What's your favorite movie? And watch the
Um,
segue into business from his favorite
what a
movie.
great segue. Yeah, definitely. I would say my favorite movie is something that might not be that well known. It's called In Bruges. And the plot is basically two hitmen. One is played by Colin Farrell and the other one is played by Brendan Gleeson, someone you probably know from like the Harry Potter movies.
Mhm.
And they sort of get stuck in Bruges, hence the title, as on their last mission, which you don't see, they make balls up of the mission, so it goes very wrong, and they end up being stuck in there. And one of them, Brendan Gleeson, is assigned with killing Colin,
Oh,
but by the end, instead of killing him, he sort of helps him avoid death.
so he becomes a guide
Yeah,
to him.
exactly.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And what's this all have to do with business?
Yeah, very good question. How is it connected to businesses and marketing? Is it the plot line or is it the strategy or the storyline?
It is, because this story, like all great stories, follow a very specific plan, at least the
Right.
plot. And it looks like a super unique something, a unique piece of art because of the small peculiarities in the movies, but the main elements that form the story that captivate the viewer are have been the same for millennia, like ever
Right.
since humanity's been around, since Homo sapiens started telling stories around campfires. Yeah, so that's how we get to strategy, because in marketing, if you think about it, what's the point of a story? Why are people telling each other stories? Well, to teach, to entertain, and to really get other people's attention. And if you think about marketing, what is marketing? Like
Yeah, it
almost the
basically
same
follows the
thing.
same steps. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost the same thing. And that's why there's a tendency or a trend in business and marketing now to take to learn from the art of story, basically. And that's, by the way, that's the title of a book, a well-known book on story, I think, The Art of Story.
Right.
um, and to take this sort of art and science and apply it to content marketing to captivate viewers and readers and the entire market better. It has to be a significant problem. If in the story, like the major problem were that the sniper guy had a splinter under his fingernail and they needed to find that solution, like everybody would have been out of the movies in like 3 seconds.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so
So
we have the hero, we already have the problem, which is them have to be stuck in Bruges. So who's the other guy? Who's the other hitman? What's his
yeah,
role?
the third super important element of story is that usually it's not enough to have one guy
Right.
tackle a mission. So that never happens in life, if you think about it. What usually happens in life, and almost always happens in great stories, is that the hero meets a guide,
Oh,
someone to
okay.
help
Yeah.
him, like a master. And in business, guess who that is?
Okay, so I would say then in this case that would be the company.
Oh, hell yeah. So that's the
Right.
company. That's your company. And again, let's like underline this huge distinction. So you are not the hero. Your company is not the hero in the eyes of the customers. They are the hero. You are the guide who helps them go on that journey.
An even better role.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, in your movie, the Stuck in Bruges movie, this guide ends up being someone very funny because there's somebody who was supposed to kill the hero at first, but
Yeah,
they ended
right.
up actually like making friends and helping them. So without
Yeah,
this guide, the hero would have probably died. They would have vanished. And so this is
exactly.
something that you would want to make apparent in your marketing, that with that monster massive problem that your customer is facing, they do need a guide. They need someone, and they need you.
How does
Yeah,
the
the rest
guide
of your
help?
marketing is about how to make sure that they understand that.
Right.
So the other thing that comes along, which is the fourth element of story, of the story framework is that the guide usually presents a plan.
Exactly. Yeah.
The movie is not about like improvising. They always have a plan. Maybe the plan fails sometimes, but they always have a plan. And if it fails, they come up with a new plan. So there's something like a methodology or a method or a plan or a recipe that they follow. And now I'm, segueing into the business arena, because that's the next piece that you really need to have clear in your messaging, in your marketing. Like, what is the unique mechanism that basically makes sure you actually have a plan that they can trust, a plan that they can say yes to, and they can go, okay, yeah, now I understand that, and that's something that we can stick to.
So the task at hand is that they have to create a brand narrative. So what would you say, what is the right and what is the wrong way to create that? What are some of the pitfalls?
Yeah, okay. So what happens most of the time is that, especially tech companies, okay, if you have a product, then it's pretty straightforward, because then your
Right.
platform or product or your software or your solution system will be the plan. But then that has to be positioned as the plan, as something that is sort of like guaranteed to like take them by the hand and lead them to transformation, lead them to the goal, lead them to the epiphany where they
Right.
want to go with the story. What ends up happening is, for product companies, they just say, this is it, and we're good. And you have to like have a more sophisticated, like a more nuanced approach, and really go into like how that plan is the only solution or the right solution for the right prospect. And other times, if you don't have a solution or a product, but you're sort of a consulting company or a development company, then you really need to like take your methodology and package that sort of into a product, almost productize your methodology so that it can be presented and framed as a plan.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That
And
makes more sense.
if you want, we can get into some details here, because I don't know, have you come across development companies and agencies websites who sort of get this right, but not really?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, time and time again, you see these companies that sort of have a plan, but you don't really see the whole brand narrative built up. You don't really see who am I in this as a customer.
Yeah, true. And what they often do is like put something like really vague there. So what's a go-to strategy for many companies in the agency slash development and arena is that they say, okay, well, we get to know your customer, we get to know your problem, then we make a plan, then we deliver the product, and then we support you. So
Right.
that's the right approach, but it's like way too general. So with the plan, in this case, for B2B companies, I would call it a unique mechanism, because the
Okay.
plan really has to set you apart. So either the plan or the unique mechanism has to be peculiar to you, something that the competition can't really copy easily, or it has to have like some kind of component that sets you apart, and it can't be like that super so general.
But I guess in
And
that case, the problem has to be unique as well. So you have to find the tinier details in its problem, not to have like a general solution to a general problem.
oh, and you're going back, you know where you're heading. You're heading into like another favorite area of mine, which is getting to know the customer, because without knowing your hero and their problem, you're never going to have a good plan to help them. You're not going to
Exactly.
be
Yeah.
able to help them.
You can't be a good guide without knowing what to do with what problem. Yeah. What is it that
Yeah,
you need to solve?
exactly. Okay, so we've got four elements of the plan, right?
Okay.
Which are the hero, their
Right.
problem, the guide, which is you, and the plan.
Okay.
Okay. And the next thing that happens in all great movies and stories is that the guide actually calls the hero to action.
Right.
So nothing happens until action is taken. They have to be called to action. And just like in stories, taking action is hard. It's hard
Right.
because of various circumstances. Taking action is hard because in real life it's hard, or in business, because you are used to doing things a certain way, and in order to achieve breakthrough and create transformation, you're going to have to change your habits, and you're just going to have to do things differently, and you're going to have to push your comfort zone. So actually this call to action is a real important piece of the entire puzzle, of the entire narrative. And what usually works is like not asking for one big, huge leap. Although sometimes that is needed. And in movies, that's what they resort to. Like they have to fight the dragon or the hero has to like literally leap across some sort of cliff. But in business, what works is not the huge leap, but many small ones.
Usually even with movies, before getting to the main part, the sort of the end, the, as you said, epiphany of it, they usually have smaller steps that you have to take. So like, let's say, for example, with Lord of the Rings, before they end up throwing the ring into the lava, they have to get there and sort of get through all these smaller steps. So they have to do all of these smaller actions.
Exactly. Yeah. So even in movies, that works. Yes. Yeah. Good point. And so in business and in marketing, what you want to do is get sort of micro commitments from your buyer, from your prospect. And that happens by inviting them to like smaller, that you have like less significant calls to action, such as download this or take a look at that or fill out this test, take this quiz, do the assessment, and then finally like get on a call. The analogy that people bring here usually is that with dating. So in dating, you don't
Right.
go straight for the marriage. So you
Yeah,
don't meet
exactly. You
someone,
have to get the smaller steps first.
yeah, will you marry me? That usually doesn't work. And it's the same way in business, although it's what a lot of companies try to do. And with B2B service companies and with product companies, okay, product companies tend to get this better. So their call to action will be like, get a demo or
Right.
talk to us. And that's better than, but in case of a dev company where you have projects in the tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes, talk to us as a call to action is just too big of a step.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they'll have a blog post and the talk to us is just a lot of times too massive of a step. And so they're getting really small or like low conversions on these little micro commitments. So something that is better, that is a step smaller and a bit more interesting than a talk to us, because face it, just like in dating, they're not going to be ready for a big commitment. So not even an engagement or a vacation together. When you've met someone, like the talk to us button, for a big project company is like asking your date to go on a 2-week vacation with you.
Right. So it's too big of a threat. It sounds
Yeah.
too threatening. Right.
Yeah. So do something smaller. That's why you'd be wise to have something like a self-assessment or a quiz or something that is a much smaller leap for the prospect to make.
Right. Something you can build up on later on.
Yeah. The sixth element of story, if they don't take action, what happens in a story? You know that there's a huge threat. So the problem is significant enough, and the prospect really has to understand, or the hero really has to understand what's at stake. And in marketing, it's the same. Like you really have to like flash that negative image to make the prospect understand what really is at stake. So if they don't take action, if they don't choose your solution, then there's a consequence, and they have to understand that. So in your movie, in Bruges, what was the consequence of not taking action?
Well, that might be a bit complicated, but basically it was about them making balls up of the old mission. And if he's not gonna get killed, if Colin is not gonna get killed, they're gonna have this sort of moral. They would have like a moral crisis if this is not solved.
Yeah, so that would have devastated his life. And if I'm not mistaken, the other consequence might have been that he would have gotten shot. So
Yeah,
he really had to
exactly.
escape.
Yeah.
So, in the movie, they constantly made you aware of the fact that, hey, what's at stake here is not some splinter under the nail, but their life. Either he's going to get shot, or plan B, or the worst scenario is being like morally devastated for the rest of his life.
Yeah, right.
And so there's some huge things at stake, and you really need to underline this in your marketing, but you've got to be careful with it, because you can very easily overdo it and make the whole thing gloomy and bloomy. And then that just doesn't work.
So what would you say, what is like a right way and wrong way to do it? So what is the best way to present?
In most scenarios, in most brand narratives, this would be sort of like seasoning on the food, like salt. You want to put a little bit.
Okay, right.
So just around the call to action, you'd have like one sentence saying like, you can't afford to procrastinate any longer or something like that, or stop this problem of security issues, or security threats are basically devastating your organization, or something like that. And in other places you can like elaborate and make it stronger, but you really have to, that's the marketer's job, and knowing your market and knowing your customer as to how far you can go.
So basically,
But
don't ask for something that is too big. So don't make it too big of a threat, what you're asking for from the hero in your call to action. But at the same time, don't make it sound too bad. What are the bad consequences if they don't take action?
yeah, so it's just about finding the right balance. But the important
Right.
thing is that you have that element in there. People are reluctant to use this because they feel that it's negative, and it is negative if it is overused. But the right way, used the right way, it's actually honest, because you have to keep reminding them of what's at stake, because they can forget. And it's in their best interest to be reminded of what's really at stake. The seventh element of story, which is basically drawing a picture of the future that happens after the transformation. So, in fairy tales, the young princess and the young prince would get together and get married and live happily ever after. So this is the image you want to paint, or the equivalent of this in business is like, what happens if you do take action and we do the plan together, and then your problem is solved? What will be all the positive outcomes and consequences of that?
Right. So the happy ending of the story.
The happy end, yes. So you have to be really good at that. And that's another thing that so many B2B companies just underestimate. They say, we solve your problem.
Yeah. So
Bam,
they don't really put emphasis
full
on the
stop.
effects of
Yeah.
it turning out right.
Yeah, because they assume that if you have a cybersecurity problem and they have a cybersecurity solution, that you as a customer will know like what that does. If you're an analytics solution, that of course like how data will benefit you. And they'll even write like 2 sentences about that on their entire website, saying that, oh, now you have insight, so you'll be great.
Right.
Or now you'll have your security holes patched up, so you'll be safe. But it's really not enough, because compared to the stakes, the happy ending, has to be equally big and strong. And the concept of transformation, which we talk about so many times in our workshop, that you have to define the transformation that happens from the before state, before the customer starts to work with you, and between the after state, what happens after you shake hands, after however many months of using your product or working together. You really have to define this. And in order for this transformation to really like get through to the customer, you have to paint that positive picture.
Yeah, right. Because I guess most of the companies, they're not gonna buy the most rational option. They're not even gonna buy the best option. They're gonna buy from the option that is the clearest messaging. So I guess clarity is one of the most important things in their marketing that they should put the most emphasis on.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. And like what some of the common questions are in relation to the brand narrative, to creating the brand narrative.
All right, so that concludes the 7 steps, the brand narrative. But then what are the most common questions that you get with regards to brand narratives on workshops?
Yeah. So one of the first questions that come up with regard to the brand narrative is, how do you use that in your marketing and in what places?
Right,
Because
how do you
the
apply it?
output, yeah, like the output of this is what? It's a storyline. For clients, we usually put it in a Google spreadsheet, in a Google sheet, because that's the way that we use the different parts and different pieces of the marketing collateral later on. But usually what you get after this is a storyline of going from the hero all the way to the happy end. And you're very rarely going to have this all in one place. In fact, the one place that comes close to this is your homepage, because in your homepage, you can go through almost the entire brand narrative, and or have like most of the pieces of the brand narrative in one place. But in other places, like you're going to have PDFs, you're going to have like slide decks, you're going to have blog posts and pages. What you can do is use pieces of these narratives. And once the customer starts to engage with your content and talk to your people, it's the whole thing is going to build up into a story. And it's not necessarily a story that, they can recite, like a
Right.
lot, but these supporting pieces and arguments are going to be there. So they're going to understand that, like, one outcome will be that they'll experience your empathy, because you're going to be communicating you're going to place them as the hero, and you're going to be communicating their problem. And because you know them well, you're going to be very accurate about their problems on several different levels, on the external level and on the feelings and on the personal and the subjective levels. So you're going to be super clear on that, and they're going to be like, all they're going to sense is like, wow, these guys really know what I want.
Right.
They really get my situation. And then in other places, in your content, in your marketing, you might have different pieces, like the call to action. That's just going to be all over your website, and that's going to be like in your sales call. So let's say you might have a discovery call, and then the next tiny little commitment that you want from them is to, I don't know, jump on another call, or fill out an assessment, or pay for an audit from you, whatever they.
Right.
So these are bits and pieces of the brand narrative that are in different pieces of the customer buying journey, in different places of the customer buying journey.
So basically the brand narrative works as sort of a foundation that they can build the messaging upon, and then it makes it a lot more interesting, and it's something that they can always refer back to, something that they can base all of their messaging, all of their content on.
Oh yes, it's like the skeleton of your market.
Okay, yeah,
It's
great.
like the skeleton. Yeah.
Okay, that makes it clear.
Yeah. And Zoli, you know what? I already have an idea for the next episode. For the next episode, what we want to go into is like the different components of messaging, of the actual words that you write in your collateral, and how those fit into the greater skeleton, the framework of the brand narrative. And you guys are going to love this, because
Right, that's
it's
fun.
something that we're going to show you, like, how bad most companies are at this. And if you're an underdog in your market and you use this to communicate super clearly, then you're going to have a big, big advantage.
Right, sounds great. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Zodi, hey, it was fun to have you on your first show.
Great to be here.
I hope we're going to do it again.
Yeah, me too. See you next time.
Okay, see you everybody, and thanks for joining. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.